This is TV Black Box, bringing you the inside goss from the TV industry.
Welcome to a special edition of TV Black Box, the podcast, as I talk to the new executive producer of Sunrise, Sean Power. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Look, it's an absolute pleasure. You've been in the role for a little while now. How are you feeling about it?
Mate, I'm loving it. It's been an absolute ride. Yeah, almost coming on, what would it be, 5 months now? So it's been an adjustment of the body clock, as you would expect, but that hasn't come as hard and fast as I had anticipated. But the best thing about Sunrise and why I was really so excited to start and work with the team is there's such a stellar group of people who have been doing it for such a long time, and to work alongside them and to be learning so much and to be getting in there at the crack of sparrows and working with them, it's just been a real hoot.
Look, it's a coveted job in television to be the EP of Sunrise, but it's also a job fraught with danger because the show has been so successful. Obviously, the last thing you want is for it to drop and, heaven forbid, become number 2 on your watch. What's the pressure like with that?
Well, proudly this year we are number 1 again for the 19th year, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And that is a credit again to the entire team that is at Sunrise. And there are people who have been at Sunrise for their entire careers, for 15, 20 years that have worked tirelessly around the clock and have got that breakfast TV formula in Australia that they pioneered. And Bolo started it all and created an amazing legacy. And so I don't think there's any fear in that happening. We've got a stellar team, a stellar line. And again, I reiterate, 19 years, number 1. This year's no different.
Mate, congratulations on that. You talk about the team, you've got people like David Walters, or Dougie as he's known around the traps, who puts that show to air. How important are all the cogs? You talked about team. How important are all the cogs that you have as part of the gears that make up Sunrise behind the scenes?
You know what it's like. You've worked in the world, Rob. It is just such a big beast. You're putting to air 3.5 hours of live television every week from Monday through to Sunday. And the only way something like that works is by having the best people in the right jobs and knowing that everyone's there for the same reason. And that is to just get the best programs and make a show that people at home want to watch, and that is very much, I guess, mirroring back the conversations that people are having around their, breakfast table on their couch at home. And so people like Dougie, Jasmine Costas, who's our managing editor, Mark, who's been is now our network entertainment editor. They are all so vital. Every single production meeting, it is the greatest contest of ideas because there is so much stuff happening every day. You want to be picking out the very best bits and shaping the best segments. And so you do not have a show like Sunrise or Weekend Sunrise without having team and teamwork, and that is what I love being a part of, because that for me is bringing in new people into those equations as well, and bringing junior producers and helping see them grow. All of that stuff is the fun stuff, and of course the hosts and the crew and the people in the control room. Everyone plays such an important part, and when all of that is singing like it is at Sunrise, that is just the greatest thing to be a part of, and it makes getting up really early in the morning really easy.
What time are you getting up these days?
So the alarm goes off at about 2:30 and we do a quick email check in the darkness of the early hours and see sort of what might have changed from sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock the night before. And Dougie, who you mentioned, who's been at Sunrise for a very long time, and he's an incredibly experienced hand.
He taught me how to line produce.
Yeah, well, I think he's taught most of the Australian TV community how to line produce and get it millisecond perfect. But he clocks on at midnight, so he'll have had a couple of hours to get a sense of what might have shifted. We'll communicate any substantial changes. I'll dial in then if needed, if it's worth having a call just to sort of see the shape and tone of things. Otherwise, I'll be getting in at about 3:30 these days.
Wow.
And then just working with our incredible team of producers as well, who get up very early and start working on more of those same day segments based on sort of the tone of what we're seeing in papers, what's developed over line, what's happened internationally.
You talk about team, but ultimately you are in a very high profile job and it's your head. when it comes to the shape of the show, the success of the show and the failure of the show. Success has many friends. Failure is very lonely. And that is the burden of someone in your position. So what is that pressure like when, there's occasionally going to be a wobble in the ratings? Television is the only industry, and I think people forget this, television is the only industry where you are measured day by day. But when those ratings come out at 8:58 in the morning, and they're embargoed until 10 a.m., but the industry's got them at 8:58, you know how you performed that following day. What did they like? What didn't they like? You see minute by minute. We held audience here. We gained audience there. We lost audience here. What is the pressure that comes with living that day in and day out?
I think the great thing about Seven and what I've enjoyed being part of it is that it's a really supportive environment, and it's about having leveled heads with people who have been in the industry for a really long time. And again, the beauty of Sunrise is our audience are incredibly loyal. Nat and Koshi and Eddie and Brett and Sam, and they have a really core audience who love tuning in every morning and knowing what they're going to get from them, and that's why they are the number one team. I think in terms of the pressure piece and looking at context is really important. So it's looking at, there's always going to be changes throughout the year in terms of the times of year, whether it be winter, whether it be school holidays. You've also got factors. We're coming out of a really intense 2 years of COVID news that was quite literally life or death, and people were tuning in every morning to get those facts and figures that determined how they were living their life, the restrictions that they were under, what it meant for their relatives. Could they get on a plane and get to a funeral they were needed to be? Could they get to a wedding? Was the weekend party going to be cancelled for their 4-year-old? Things that had a really big impact on life. So we saw really, I guess, a different TV viewing culture through all of that. And now we've come out of that. We've come out of a federal election, and we're back in the time of breakfast TV, where for us it's about introducing the fun back into it. It's about, we can now have that full variety of content in a show because we're not crashing out of a presser with a chief health officer talking about really tough, hard stuff. And we can go into the fun of, the dancing dogs, which on National Dogs Day, which you can do, and you can have all of that balance with your news and being there to also provide that laugh for people as they head out the door and go to work. And so to your point about pressure, I feel incredibly supported because I've got people like Craig McPherson, who's our network news director, who's been around for a good chunk of time, is just a genuinely terrific person, human, who you can have great conversations about content with, but can get really great feedback from as well. And then also just know that at the end of the day, there's always somebody you can call and have those conversations with. Similarly, James is in at Martin Place, our CEO, weekly, and always makes time to sort of go around and chat with everyone and sort of unpack where things are at. And to have all of those people there feeding into the conversation, it doesn't feel sort of in your setup, I guess, it doesn't feel that intensity, not because it's not hard work and not because everyone's giving it 100%, not because you always want to succeed and you wouldn't be in TV if you weren't competitive, but because we're just always having those conversations about what can we do to make the show the best that it can be. And the beauty is that that's connecting with audiences.
There's a lot of support there, which I admire, because I've been in jobs where I haven't had that kind of support. So that must be a great thing. One of those supporters is, of course, Sarah Stinson, who is the head of morning TV, a person I truly admire. I really admire what she's done, what she's achieved. What is the working relationship between you two as far as you doing the day-to-day of Sunrise and how she gets involved from a head of morning TV point of view?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got level 4 at Martin Place is a combination of Sunrise and the morning show, and the latest are also joining us upstairs as well now. But it is just like a hive of activity because it's ultimately both of Sarah's programs sit on the level. Sarah is sensational, as you know. I've worked with Sarah before, and part of the attraction of coming back and joining this role, again, from that support piece you talk about, is knowing that I was going to be reporting to Sarah daily. I have a huge amount of trust for Sarah and respect because she has just done it so well for such a long time. And we have, I reckon, 20 conversations a day that are all about content and all about, again, that contest of ideas and making sure that the content the next day is on track. But also culture is so incredibly important to Sarah. And at the morning show, that was something that is a legacy that still exists there to this day in terms of people whom have trained up on that show and are still there many years later because they love working there. And so I'm learning so much from her from a leadership perspective about how to emulate that within Sunrise and to make sure that people, again, are coming to work and always feel valued in an industry that is really, really intense. We ask a lot of the people who work in it, we ask, and it's about making sure those people feel valued.
You've got a big change coming to the show soon. You will be moving out of Martin Place and into Channel 7's headquarters at Everleigh in Sydney. I assume as you go to a new studio, that will be a new set. Will there be a new graphics package? I know there's lots of people who want to know if there'll be a big refresh coming for Sunrise when that happens.
So all of those questions and conversations are all sort of unfolding. You're right. The move over there to join the rest of 7 West will be really exciting because for the first time, we'll all be in the same Media City complex. And I think particularly for news and Sunrise and all of our programs, for a long time we've worked out a very tiny space that has absolutely earned every inch and dollar spent in there.
Certainly has.
The ability to be able to not have to, bump out after each and every show and to have flexibility about when we record things and guests that we get into the studio and be music.
So does that mean
that
Sunrise will have its own studio and news will be in a different studio?
It's same floor space, but different, its own studio. We don't have to pack up and we can record when we need to record. So it's there the whole time. Exactly right. In terms of look and feel, again, our audiences are incredibly loyal to Sunrise, and it's in no way would we ever do anything that was going to sort of, be a huge stray from where we are.
The show has always evolved.
Absolutely, and so naturally, by moving location, that would have to happen, of course. But in terms of scale of that, that's I think the point that just certainly wouldn't be anything incredibly intense because at the end of the day, I've always think always want things to look great, but for us, it's always about the guests and the talent, and that for us is the core of where our energy needs to be, making sure we've got those best segments, the best people joining us, and it looks good too.
One of the cast changes you've had in recent times has been the departure of the cash cow. That happened because Telstra changed the rules about competition lines and SMS. Have you guys worked around that? Will we see a return of the cash cow?
The cash cow, this is the number one question that I had from friends and family when I joined. So the cash cow is still at Martin Place. I often get to catch up with the cash cow, sometimes in the
How
kitchen.
How often do you wear the suit?
Sometimes the cash cow's downstairs. But the good thing about the new studio at Everleigh is there's actually a whole rooftop. So I think the cash cow is going to get a bit more space to meander. But in terms of the cash cow still going, the cash cow's still there. It's just, finding the right time and place for the cash cow.
Mm-hmm. Because competitions were a big factor of Sunrise in Today for a time. As I said, the changes Telstra made almost made it impossible. Are you looking for a new competition mechanic that you can bring back?
We've executed a cracker in the last couple of weeks, which has been a knock-knock competition that we've done in partnership with Coles. And it sort of came from a meeting when we first started, but it was just about how do we just do something that's truly live and totally unpredictable and unexpected, because that, as no doubt in your time in TV, that's the best stuff, right? Where it's like you're watching it and you're sort of holding your breath, wanting to know if it's going to go one way or the other. So it was, all right, people can enter online, 25 words or less, how this would make a difference in their life. We'll pick somebody without them having any idea, rock up with a film crew in their street, and slowly tease throughout the show where we are, and then just go and knock on their door and hope they're home. And so that, I reckon, is the most stressful 5 minutes of the week because you have your fingers and toes crossed that when you knock on the door, someone is home. Otherwise, you've got not only have you got your host out there, the crew, but about 30 people from Coles ready to hand over the check. Competitions will always be a huge part of Sunrise because it's about not only giving back to be the cliche, but it's where you can really explore that hope and heart, and you get to learn and meet amazing people through having an impact and having change in their life. I know the hosts love it. I think they're often just great conversations that the hosts get to have with ultimately punters, and it's something that just always brings a good bit of light and heart to the show.
Mate, your career is an interesting one. I'm literally looking at your LinkedIn page at the moment. So you were an associate producer on Sydney Live with Ben Fordham in 2012. You then became a producer and reporter at Nine. You did that from 2013 to 2018, and you were associate producer for 60 Minutes, a crime reporter for Nine News Queensland, a producer for A Current Affair. You then made the leap to Channel 7. You've become an executive producer at 7 News in Melbourne. It's an interesting career. You're making your way up the ladder. Why do you think they chose you for Sunrise? It was, as I said, big shoes to fill.
I think, I've had an awesome series of experiences and been really lucky to work with people who have always been very, very generous to not only teach me what they knew, but provide an opportunity to take that next challenge or to try working on the next program, or to have a stint, over summer doing something else that then led to another thing. TV and radio is great like that. I think if you're there and wanting to work hard, there is no shortage of opportunities. In terms of this particular one, I actually came back to 7 at the start of the year in a role that was looking at the sort of major news events, be it the election and big breaking news stuff, how we were reporting to Craig in terms of how we would be best prepared for those types of moments. And when the Sunrise piece came up, it was a surprise for me, but I think it was about working with Sarah and having a combination of the news bits and pieces, the fun that has existed on the morning show for years and years and years, and led it to being, the number one in its spot as well, and mixing those things together and really continuing to power on and bring Sunrise into the future.
We talked about evolution. How do you see Sunrise evolving? What kind of changes do you want to make during your I want to say reign, that's probably the wrong term, but during your tenure as executive producer?
For me, I think it's very much remaining true to what Sunrise has always been, which is that place that people feel safe and feel like they're getting what they need at the start of the day to set themselves up. But we touched on it before when we talked about that transition out of what's been a really heavy news period. I think for me, I just want it to be a place that you go to because you are always going to get the very best, and you're going to have the best time, you're going to get the best news, you're going to be hanging out with the best people, and it sets you up for success in your own day. And finding ways and to connect with new audience is always really important. Free-to-air is obviously the heart of what we do, but we're continuing to expand on all of our different other platforms and making sure that it doesn't matter how you want to watch the show or where you are in the morning, that you can, be that on the bus, it's going to work, on the train with 7 Plus, all of those sorts of things. Really exploring that, because Sunrise is so much more, it has been for a really long time, is so much more than just the TV show. Sunrise is an absolute, a brand, and it's about how people start their day. And it's about starting with Sunrise, which is what our promo line is. It's about starting with Sunrise because you know that it is going to give you everything you need.
When you look at your competition, what's a positive you see about the Today Show and News Breakfast?
I have had the fortunate experience of one of the very first internships I got was at ABC News Breakfast at South Banks back in the day, and they were incredibly lovely. This was, almost in its first year on air, or back that far. And Steve Burling, who is the director of morning TV at Nine, was the chief of staff at 60 Minutes when I was there, and I think he's again a terrific bloke.
Yes.
So I think the best thing about Australian TV is that there is competition, because what that means is there are so many opportunities for people. And at the end of the day, as somebody who grew up watching TV and dreaming of one day being able to work it, to think that there is such an active industry when we've seen so many other industries in the creative sphere shrink, to know that this space exists is exciting. And everyone is genuinely, like I said, you wouldn't be in TV if you weren't competitive, but everyone's super creative, and to see people try things, and they don't always work, but to be able to just be in the arena is so exciting.
But as long as you stay at number one.
Well, the beauty of Sunrise, and the beauty of Koshi, the beauty of Nat, the beauty of all of our hosts is that we are number one.
Indeed. Sean Power, I look forward to seeing where Sunrise goes with you at the helm. Congratulations on all your success, and thanks for joining us on TV Black Box.
Thanks so much, Rob. Culture and content, that's what it's all about.